Hey guys, welcome back to, I guess I'm calling it Basic Blues. Just a few quick videos on the essential techniques that make blues guitar what it is. Last time I showed you a few common tunings, and today I'm going to talk about an equally important concept, which is fingerstyle. Fingerstyle or finger picking basically means using your fingers to play instead of a guitar pick, which is known as flat picking. You can also use hybrid picks to play fingerstyle. These are little picks that wrap around your thumb or finger and act like an extended nail. I've actually never used a hybrid pick before, but if they're anything like sitar picks, they'll be as uncomfortable as hell, so I'm fine just using my fingers. You might want to grow the nails out on your picking hand a little bit. You can play just using the skin of your fingers, but it's a lot quieter. They don't need to be too long, just long enough to catch the string without it hitting the end of your finger is fine. Now, the name is a little misleading. All fingerstyle means is that you're using your fingers to play, so nothing to do with the style of the music. So blues, folk, metal, flamenco guitar all utilise fingerstyle, but in ways that sound completely different to each other. The fingerstyle technique used in blues is generally a steady bass line played by the thumb, often on an open string, but not always, while the fingers play the chords and melody on the higher strings. So this is the syncopation I was talking about in the last video. It's that bass played with the thumb versus chords and melody with the fingers. Combined with an open tuning like Spanish or VESTAPOL, playing fingerstyle gives easy access to a wide range of notes and really flavours that distinctive full blues sound. So this video is just a primer on the basic types of fingerstyle patterns that you really need to get down before you can make any headway learning any song. I'm going to show you a few examples in different tunings that you can practice until it sinks in. But before that, we're going to take a quick look at finger positioning, or where your fingers should be when they're not playing the strings. This will vary depending on the tuning you're in and the key of the song, but in each case your thumb will be resting on either the 6th or the 5th string, with your index, middle and ring fingers resting on the 3rd, 2nd and 1st. Rest your palm on the bridge and use it to dampen the strings when you need to. You're likely to use different fingers to play different strings all the time, but this is just a good resting position that gives you best access to most of the strings. Lightning Hopkins was known to play using just his index finger and thumb, so nothing is rigidly set in stone. Play the way that's most comfortable to you, really. The hardest part, if you've never really finger picked before, will probably be learning to use your fingers and thumb together and in pairs. If you've always used a pick, this might start as a bit of an obstacle, but take it slowly. Don't let the unfamiliar dent your ego, and over time you will get it. Like anything in music, just keep practicing until your muscle memory allows you to improve. So here are some examples in different tunings to get you started. Remember, start slowly until you perfect each one and you'll have it down in no time. I'm going to start off as simple as possible, so we're just playing open strings for now. Remember, 1st string is ring finger, 2nd string is middle, and 3rd string is index. To start off, we're going to use one thumb and one finger together, starting with the 6th string and the 1st string, then the 6th on its own. So then we do the same with the 6th and the 3rd, and the same with the 2nd and the 6th, with a few bass notes to end the measure. So here's the whole thing. And slowly. So this time we're going to alternate between thumb and fingers, so the high notes are played on the offbeat, following the same order as before, so 1st, then 3rd, then 2nd. And slowly. Once you've got those first two down, we're going to combine them with a mix of high notes, both off and on the beat. And slowly. Once you've got the hang of the rhythm playing open strings, try this next example. So this time we're using 2 fingers to play what's known as a double stop. Starting on the offbeat, you want your index finger on the 2nd string 2nd fret, your middle finger on the 3rd string 3rd fret, and then you're going to move it up 1 fret on the beat. So, and then we fill the rest of the measure out with bass. So, and then we're going to do the same but in reverse. So we start with the index finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, middle finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and we start on the offbeat and move it back down 1 fret. So here's the whole thing. And slower. This next one is very similar to the last, but this time you're going to fill out those gaps with a few more double stops. And slowly. Hopefully by now you should be starting to get the hang of fingerstyle. So let's try a quick little lick, kind of in the style of Lightning Hopkins, starting with a slide up and ending with triplets or 3 notes to 1 beat near the end. So we start off on the beat with your middle finger on the 3rd fret 3rd string, slide up 1 fret, then you move to the 2nd string, index finger on the 3rd fret, so the same positions we were using before, and end on that high string, and that is played on the offbeat. So here's the whole thing. And the second half you just mix between those 2 strings. So here it is played slowly. And then the final section, we use the same chord position, but we play it as triplets. So, and then for the very end, we'll do a pull off, which is striking the note with your finger and then pulling it off to open. So that's 2nd fret, 3rd string to open, and then 2nd fret, 4th string. So all together. And don't forget that bass line. In Spanish tuning, the root note of the open chord is on the 5th string, so that's where we're going to put the thumb, but keep your fingers on the 1st, 2nd and 3rd strings as before. So again, using a steady open string bass line, start with an open chord on the offbeat, followed by a simple 1-fingered 7th chord on the beat. Keep playing the bass to the end of the measure. Then starting on the offbeat, play the melody line on the high string. So all together, that's and slowed down. This next riff uses note bends, which are a common feature of blues, along with slides, vibrato, hammer-ons and pull-offs. Here we repeat the note both on and off the beat. So. And slowly. And taking the previous example a little further. And slower. Notice that the bent note on the 5th string is the same as that of the 3rd, only lower in pitch. This last example uses the same chord shape as the 1st, but moved up to the 5th fret. Here's the example. And slowed down. Notice the triplets at the end. As I mentioned in the previous video, Spanish and VESTAPOL share some similarities because they're both based on the shape of an open chord in standard tuning. This means that the shapes and positions found in Spanish can be reproduced in VESTAPOL and vice versa. Just move it all one string up towards the 6th string, which is where most of the bass lines will be played. Here's that first Spanish riff transposed to VESTAPOL. And slowed down. This last example echoes much of Elmore James's playing, making frequent use of triplets and a boogie rhythm, which you can also hear in Robert Johnson's Believe I'll Dust My Broom. This kind of riff sounds best played with a slide, but that's a topic for a later video. And remember, to play this in Spanish tuning, all you need to do is move it one string down towards the 1st string. So that's all for today. Remember, start slowly, keep going through the examples until you get the timing right, and you'll find speeding up is a lot easier. Please do leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want more, and I'll see you in the next one.